A poor nurse gently lifted the frail wrist of an old woman, whispering, "You're safe with me," unaware that this old woman's son was a CEO billionaire who watched in hidden silence. Yet this poor nurse had no idea her simple act of kindness would soon shake the world, rewrite destinies, and reveal a billionaire secret no one saw coming. This poor nurse, struggling to survive, starving herself to feed her little sister, still chose compassion over comfort. But why would a billionaire's own mother be abandoned in a public hospital? And what shocking thing did this poor nurse do for this old woman that even a billionaire son, with all his power, could never do? And when the truth comes out, who will be blessed, who will break, and who will regret ever underestimating a poor nurse? Rain slapped against the hospital windows like nature was grieving something the world hadn't discovered yet. The night shift always had a heaviness, but tonight felt different, heavy with unseen fate, thick with purpose. Like destiny hovered in the fluorescent lights. Jenna Cole, young, tired, and wearing the same worn shoes she'd been nursing in for 3 years, pushed a wheelchair into Ward 7C. She was a poor nurse, everyone knew. Nurses whispered about how she took double shifts, traded dinner breaks for charting, and sometimes pretended she'd eaten so the other nurses didn't feel guilty. Poverty had shaped her, but kindness defined her. Beside her limped Mrs. Eloise Grant, a fragile old woman with silver hair and trembling fingers. Her hospital gown looked oversized, like dignity had been stripped away long before sickness touched her. "Easy there, Mrs. Grant," Jenna murmured, adjusting the old woman's blanket carefully. "I know it hurts. I'll help you settle in." Mrs. Grant peered up with cloudy eyes. "My dear, thank you. You remind me of someone I loved once." Jenna smiled, brushing damp hair from the patient's forehead. "Who's that?" "A woman who gave when she had nothing. And somehow, she still felt wealthy." Jenna felt her chest tighten slightly. People rarely saw the exhaustion under her hopeful voice, the fear behind her steady hands. Debt collectors, unpaid rent, medical bills for her little sister Zoe. But she would not, let hardship kill her humanity. She tucked Eloise in as gently as a daughter would, her movements slow and deliberate. That's when she noticed, no fancy clothing, no family photographs, no flowers. No one at all. The loneliness felt thick. "Don't you have family coming?" Jenna asked softly. Mrs. Grant hesitated, hands fidgeting. "He's busy." "He?" "My son." A tiny pause. "He leads a big company." "He's a CEO, very important." Jenna blinked, surprised. That didn't add up. A CEO son should mean private care, private nurses, a suite at the city's finest hospital. Not Ward 7C with flickering lights and chipped paint. But Jenna didn't pry. Dignity mattered. "Well," Jenna whispered, draping a soft, clean blanket over the woman's shoulders, "no one is too important to need love." Mrs. Grant looked like those words were a balm her soul had been starving for. Down the hallway, unseen behind partially closed blinds, a tall man in a black coat watched. Steel blue eyes followed every movement, jaw tightened, breath held. He was powerful. Anyone could see it in the way his posture screamed command. Ethan Grant, billionaire CEO of Grant Tech Industries, wasn't used to shadows. But tonight he stood in one willingly. He had arrived secretly. No entourage, no media. But pride had chained him back from revealing himself. His relationship with his mother had fractured long ago. He came to observe, not embrace. To look, not feel. Yet what he saw unsettled him. Jenna, the poor nurse with frayed scrubs and tired eyes, tucked his mother in with a tenderness he didn't remember giving in years. Maybe ever. He forced his expression still, but something shook inside. Why? Why did this stranger care so much? "Ms. Cole," a voice called from the desk, breaking the quiet. Jenna turned, shoulders straight. "Yes, Dr. Lewis. You're doing overtime again? 3rd night in a row?" Jenna nodded quickly. "Bills don't pay themselves." The doctor frowned with soft pity. "You need rest." Jenna smiled, though exhaustion shadowed her features. "Rest comes later. Helping her comes now." Mrs. Grant's eyes shimmered at Jenna's words. Ethan's fists clenched behind the glass. "She's sacrificing. For a stranger?" Jenna helped the old woman sip warm water, dabbed her lips, checked vitals, then rubbed gentle circles on her palm until trembling eased. "You are not alone," Jenna whispered. And for the first time in weeks, Eloise Grant closed her eyes without fear. Outside, Ethan's heart felt something unfamiliar. Guilt? Aw, envy? He didn't know. But watching a poor stranger offer more love to his mother than he had in years carved discomfort into his billionaire soul. The rain outside thickened, but inside this humble room a flicker of warmth glowed, born not of wealth, but of compassion. Ethan looked at his mother one last time, then at Jenna. Who is this woman? Why would a poor nurse give so much? And how had he, with everything, failed in ways she never did? He stepped back into the hallway shadows, breath unsteady, fate shifting quietly between two beating hearts. One poor, one wealthy, both about to collide in a way that would shock everyone. Morning sunlight spilled through the narrow hospital windows, soft and gold, but it did nothing to erase the night's exhaustion from Jenna's face. Her eyes were rimmed red, her back stiff, yet she walked into Ward 7C with warmth like she had slept a full night in luxury. Mrs. Grant opened her eyes weakly. "You're back?" Jenna smiled, setting a thermos on the bedside table. "I promised I would be. And I brought you homemade oatmeal. Zoe, my kid sister, makes it best." Mrs. Grant's brows lifted. "You cook breakfast for her before working nights?" Jenna gave a shy shrug. "She starts school early and I don't want her going hungry. I promised our mom I'd take care of her." A shadow crossed her eyes, a flicker of grief. Mrs. Grant noticed but didn't push. The pain spoke loud enough without words. Jenna spooned warm oatmeal into the old woman's mouth with gentle patience. Each slow bite, every pause, every dab of the napkin at her chin, Jenna moved like caring was her calling, not her job. Down the corridor, hidden by architecture and pride, Ethan Grant stood again, stealth back visit, coat collar turned up. Billionaire CEO in jeans today, as if casual clothes could disguise the weight he carried. He watched Jenna feeding. His mother food a billionaire's kitchen could have catered in silver bowls. His jaw flexed. Why isn't she getting care at my private clinic? Why didn't she call me? But the uncomfortable, deeper question gnawed harder. Why didn't I call her? He leaned closer, watching Jenna tuck a soft towel under his mother's chin to keep her gown clean. The way she leaned in, like the world slowed for this one person, scraped at the armor his success had built. He had never slowed. Not for holidays, not for birthdays, not for grief. "Why are you here again?" A voice whispered beside him. Ethan turned sharply. An elderly janitor in green scrubs stood with a mop. He had quiet eyes, the kind that saw more than they let on. "Visiting," Ethan muttered. "Funny kind of visit, standing in shadows." The janitor raised an eyebrow. "Sometimes shadows feel safer than forgiveness." Ethan stiffened. "You don't know me," the janitor nodded. "I know the look of a man who's late to something priceless." Before Ethan could answer, Jenna's soft laugh floated through the air, light, gentle. She was telling Mrs. Grant about Zoe's school project, how the little girl wanted to be an engineer and build robots. Robots. Mrs. Grant smiled thinly. "That's wonderful." "Yeah," Jenna chuckled. "She thinks one day she'll build a robot nurse to take my shifts so I can sleep for once." Mrs. Grant's laugh turned into a cough. Jenna instantly steadied her, rubbing circles on her back, lifting water close but not too close. Everything precise, everything caring. A poor nurse with instincts wealth couldn't teach. When Eloise's breathing eased, Jenna whispered, "There you go. Safe now." Ethan's throat tightened. Safe. When had he last made anyone feel safe? Every meeting, every headline, every investor call. Power, precision, profit. But safety, love? He wasn't sure. Suddenly, the heart monitor beeped sharply, spiking, then slowing. Jenna froze, instincts firing before fear could. "Mrs. Grant, stay with me." Deep breaths. "I'm here." Her voice was steady, anchored, like she had trained for chaos. She grabbed oxygen tubing with practiced speed, adjusted pillows, checked vitals, hit the call button calmly. "I've got you." Ethan watched, breath caught. No panic, no hesitation. Wealth taught command. Hardship had taught her grace under crisis. Dr. Lewis rushed in. "Vitals fluctuating?" "Yes, transient desaturation, but she's stabilizing." Eloise's chest rose easier. Dr. Lewis exhaled. "Good work, Cole. Quick thinking." Jenna smiled faintly. "Just doing my job," but it wasn't just a job. Ethan saw it. The janitor saw it. The old woman felt it. After the doctor left, Mrs. Grant weakly touched Jenna's hand. "You remind me of a girl I used to be, and a boy I used to raise." Jenna smiled, bittersweet. "Then I'm honored. Silence stretched. Eloise whispered, guilt woven into each strained breath. Do you resent your life being hard? Jenna paused. The question pierced. Some days. Yes, she admitted softly. But being poor isn't shameful. What matters is who you are when life squeezes you. Ethan swallowed hard, as if the word struck somewhere his success couldn't shield. And who are you? Eloise asked. Jenna's answer came like a quiet oath. Someone who won't stop being kind even when life isn't kind back. Emotion shimmered in Eloise's eyes. Ethan's chest ached with something unfamiliar. Regret, envy, fear he had become the worst version of himself, for the best reasons he once thought. A phone buzzed in his pocket. His assistant's voice. Board meeting in 20 minutes, sir. Investors are landing. Should we delay? He stared through the glass, Jenna adjusting a blanket, whispering reassuring words. His mother drifting into rest under the care of a stranger who gave more love than he had allowed himself to give in years. No, he forced out. Don't delay, but he stayed watching 1 second longer. 2, 5. Even as footsteps pulled him away, his heart stayed in that room, tied not by obligation, but by a question he could no longer ignore. How could a poor nurse give his mother something a billionaire never did? And what would happen when their worlds finally collided not by accident but by fate? The cafeteria smelled like burnt coffee and yesterday's fries, but Jenna barely noticed. She stirred a cup of powdered hot chocolate, her budget version of comfort, while Zoe sat across from her, legs swinging, school backpack bigger than her tiny frame. You look tired. Jenny, Zoe said, scrunching her nose. Like tired, not pretend tired. Jenna forced a smile. I'm okay. Zoe frowned. The kind of frown only kids who've seen too much wear. You didn't eat again. Jenna pushed a sandwich toward her. Eat, it's turkey. Good protein for growing robot engineers. I'm gonna build a nurse robot first, Zoe declared proudly. One that says, go sleep, Jenna. Jenna laughed, but the sound broke halfway. I'll put it on my wish list. Her phone vibrated. Final notice on rent. Again. She flipped it face down quickly before Zoe noticed, but she already had. Zoe glanced at Jenna's trembling hands. Are we poor again this month? We're not poor, Jenna answered softly. We're getting by. That's what you say when we are poor. Jenna inhaled, steadying herself. We have each other. That's wealth too. Zoe leaned across the table and hugged her. I love you even if we're getting by forever. Jenna kissed her hair. I love you too, always. Before she could blink away emotion, an orderly rushed in. Jenna, Ward 7C, Mrs. Grant is asking for you. Jenna's heart kicked. She squeezed Zoe's hand. Stay right here. I'll be back fast. Zoe saluted dramatically. Robot engineer on standby. Jenna hurried through corridors, her sneakers squeaking against polished floors. Her pulse thrummed with worry. When she entered Mrs. Grant's room, she found her sitting upright, pale, breathing shallow but smiling faintly. There she is, Eloise whispered. My angel. Jenna's breath trembled. Are you hurting? Should I call Dr. Lewis? Not pain, Eloise murmured. Memory. I remembered something. About my son, Jenna sat carefully beside her. What did you remember? Eloise looked down at her wrinkled hands, voice fragile. Once, when he was small, he brought me a wilted flower he found in a parking lot. Held it like a treasure. Said, Mama, poor things deserve a chance to feel loved too. Jenna's throat closed. The tenderness of the image contrasted painfully with the haunted loneliness now sitting in this hospital bed. What happened? Jenna whispered. Success happened. Eloise's eyes clouded. Power happened, and I let him go chasing it without reminding him what mattered. Jenna touched her hand gently. Maybe he remembers more than you think. Eloise smiled sadly. He remembers his empire. Jenna started to respond, but suddenly the heart monitor spiked. Eloise flinched, breath catching in her throat. Mrs. Grant? Jenna's voice sharpened with alarm. Talk to me. What's happening? Eloise grabbed Jenna's wrist, weak but urgent. If anything happens to me, promise me something. Focus on breathing. We'll talk when you're stable. No, Eloise insisted, tears gathering. Promise me you won't change. Don't let the world harden you. People like you save souls, Jenna blinked rapidly. I don't save souls. I just try to help. That is saving souls. The monitor beeped erratically. Jenna stood, panic crawling under her skin. I'm getting help. No. Eloise gasped, holding tighter. I just need one more moment with someone who sees my humanity, not my last name. The words carved straight through Jenna. She sank back, holding Eloise's trembling hands. I see you, Jenna whispered. Not just the illness, not the loneliness. I see you. Tears slid down Eloise's cheek, not from pain but relief. A soft exhale trembled from her lips. Her hands loosened, the monitor leveled but her eyelids fluttered weakly, exhaustion claiming her. Rest, Jenna whispered. I'm here. Eloise drifted into sleep, breathing steadier but fragile. Outside the room, unseen, Ethan stood frozen. He had arrived midway, intending to reveal himself, to finally say Mom out loud again. But instead he heard everything, saw everything. He pressed a hand to the wall, hard, as if grounding himself from breaking. His mother, desperate for connection. A stranger filling a space he abandoned. Kindness, given freely by someone who had nothing. Something inside him cracked. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep. A fault line that had always existed finally splitting open. A memory surfaced uninvited. A small boy watching his mother skip dinner so he could eat. A boy who promised, I'll make so much money that you'll never suffer again. A boy who forgot the meaning of that promise. He whispered to himself, voice raw. What have I done? But fate wasn't finished. Zoe is curious, restless, and had gotten bored waiting. She wandered down the hall and stared up at him. Hi, she chirped. Ethan blinked. Hello. You look like you want to cry, Zoe said bluntly. My sister cries when she's tired. Maybe you need a snack, Ethan stared. Who is this tiny truth-teller? Zoe squinted at him. Are you rich or poor? The question hit like a slap. Why do you ask? People who look sad like that are either really poor or really rich. Ethan choked on a laugh, sharp, painful. Which do I look like? Zoe studied him, then said simply, empty. It landed like a verdict. Jenna emerged just then, startled to see Zoe speaking to a stranger. Zoe, you can't wander. Then she noticed Ethan, her breath stilled. Their eyes locked in a collision not of worlds but of truths. Something unspoken passed, recognition without knowing why. Ethan opened his mouth, but emotion drowned his voice. Jenna gathered Zoe protectively. Come on, Peanut. You need to finish lunch. Zoe tugged on Jenna's sleeve. He's empty, Jenna flushed. Zoe, but Ethan nodded slowly. She's not wrong. Jenna hesitated, as if she felt something heavy in him, but didn't know its name. Then she left, Zoe in hand. Footsteps soft but echoing in Ethan's chest long after they disappeared. He stood alone in the hallway. No wealth, no boardroom dominance, no armor strong enough to silence the thought pounding in his head. The richest life is one he abandoned. They said fate knocks softly. This time it crashed like thunder. 3 days passed. 3 long days without Mrs. Grant's laughter, her stories, her frail fingers gripping Jenna's hand. Each shift, Jenna checked the room, half hoping, half fearing. But the bed stayed empty, linens fresh, quiet like goodbye. Jenna told herself patience transfer all the time. But emptiness has a way of knowing the truth before hearts do. She was finishing charting when Dr. Lewis approached, eyes gentle. Jenna. Mrs. Grant passed peacefully this morning. The pen slid from Jenna's fingers. The world hushed, she whispered. She wasn't alone, right? Dr. Lewis hesitated, then shook his head slowly. No family. No hand held. No whispered comfort at the end, except the ones she had given before the final hour. Jenna's chest ached, grief sharp and raw. She deserved better. Sometimes, the doctor murmured, the world repays kindness in ways we don't expect. She didn't understand, not yet. But she felt something shift inside her. A vow. Like steel forming in the fire of sorrow. No soul in her care would ever leave this world feeling forgotten if she could help it. The funeral was small. Too small for someone who once raised a future titan. A modest chapel. A simple casket. A cold wind where luxury should have been. The priest spoke gently. Only 5 attendees sat in the pews. 2 nurses, the janitor, Jenna, and Zoe with hands folded and eyes watery. Jenna placed a single white rose on the casket, fingers trembling. You mattered, she whispered. A voice answered softly behind her. She did. Jenna. Turned Ethan Grant stood at the doorway, but not as the controlled billionaire she had unknowingly seen. No tailored arrogance, no polished armor. Just a man stripped to truth, eyes red, suit rumpled like he had not slept or cared to. Gasps rippled through the chapel. Nurses whispered. Zoe squinted. "That's the empty man," she announced. Jenna shot her a mortified look. "Zoe..." But Ethan let out a faint, humorless breath that sounded halfway like a sob. "She's..." Right, he approached the casket slowly, reverently. Each step felt like apology. He placed a tiny, crushed flower beside the rose. Wilted, identical to the one from childhood memory. A tribute to who he had been before he lost himself. When he spoke, his voice cracked open. Soft, honest, human. "I chased the world so hard I forgot the world that made me. I wasn't there when she needed me. But someone was." His eyes lifted to Jenna. Her breath caught, a tangle of shock, empathy, and something deeper she didn't dare name. "You gave my mother more than I ever did," he whispered. "And you didn't even know her last name." Jenna swallowed, voice barely sound. "I didn't do anything extraordinary." "Yes," Ethan said, voice raw. "You did what wealth, power, and success failed to teach me. You showed her humanity." Silence fell, heavy, reverent. Then Ethan walked toward her. Slowly, like a man approaching truth for the first time in years. He stopped close and not invading, but confessing with presence. "I want to thank you, properly." Jenna shook her head gently. "I didn't do it to be thanked." "That's exactly why you deserve more than gratitude." Zoe tugged Jenna's sleeve, whispering loudly, "Is he going to pay our rent?" Jenna's cheeks flamed. "Zoe!" But Ethan didn't laugh, he softened. "How much?" he asked quietly. Jenna stiffened. "No, this isn't charity." "I don't want money." Ethan nodded, something like respect glowing in his tired eyes. "Then let me offer something else." He reached into his coat and handed her a simple white envelope. "For you and your sister," he said. "Not as charity, as acknowledgement." Jenna hesitated and then opened it. Not money. Not a check. A scholarship approval letter, full scholarship and for Zoe, signed with his authority. Robotics Academy. National program, life-changing. Zoe gasped so loud the chapel echoed. "Robot school? For real?" Tears flooded Jenna's eyes. I can't accept this." "You already earned it," Ethan answered softly. "You built someone's final days with dignity. Let me help build your future." Silence held them. Grief, gratitude, and a bridge forming between two worlds. Jenna wiped her tears. "She loved you, even when she missed you," Ethan's voice trembled. "I know. And now I will spend the rest of my life being someone she wouldn't feel ashamed to be proud of." A moment passed. Fragile. Beautiful. Then Zoe tugged Ethan's sleeve like fate's smallest messenger. "Do you want to come eat with us? Jenna makes noodles that taste like happy rain." For the first time, Ethan smiled, small, real, aching, and hopeful all at once. "I would like that." Jenna looked at him. Not at the billionaire, not at the CEO, but at the son. The human, the man trying. Maybe kindness really does save souls, maybe wealth, when humbled, can heal too, and maybe, just maybe, some broken paths meet not to collide, but to rebuild. Ethan glanced at his mother's casket one last time. "Thank you, Mom," he whispered, "for bringing an angel into your life when I forgot how to." He turned to Jenna, and his voice steadied like someone choosing a new beginning. "Shall we go? I have a lot to learn. And I'd like to start by learning kindness from you." Jenna took a breath, then nodded, a soft smile rising through tears. "Let's go. Together, one soul once poor in wealth, one soul once poor in love." They walked out into the sunlight, not as savior and saved, but as proof that compassion changes worlds more than power ever could.